Welcome to the Awareness Dialogue. And today it's our pleasure and honor to have a very special guest. I'm biased because he is a very beloved friend and close brother, George Kanaan. Welcome, George.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be with you. Pleasure to be with you.
And let me give you an idea who that giant of a man you are watching. George is the Chief Executive Officer of the Arab Bankers Association in London. Also, he has had a career in banking focused on the Arab world, most of which was spent at Citibank. George studied engineering at the American University of Beirut and Carnegie Mellon University. He also studied business at Harvard. He is an environmentalist, which is very interesting side of his personality, who likes to think of himself as deeply Christian. And I like that very much. This combination of being deeply Christian, environmentalist, engineer, and also a businessman or a banker. The combination is really exciting, George, and welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you.
What kind of engineering did you study, George?
I started my engineering studies as a civil engineer at the American University of Beirut. From here, I went to Carnegie Mellon, where I studied environmental engineering. Now, in 1970 and 1969, that was a very new discipline. And I think I was one of the very first class of environmental engineers that have ever graduated from that university, or probably for that matter, from any university.
So what do you mean environmental engineering, including what?
In those days, environmental engineering was concerned about the design of water treatment and water supply systems, and including water treatment, of course, getting the water, basically clean up polluted water, make sure it gets to you clean, to your home for your use. Also, the study of transportation planning. That transportation bears greatly on the environment, and efficient design of networks to move people about and goods about is an essential function of engineering, and should be part of the environmental engineering learning. In addition, we had a look at, of course, the way cities are designed, urban planning. We had a look at how people got rid of solid waste and how they, of course, how they treated the sewage. That was part of the water resources thing. And we also had our great concern at the time, which was water pollution, air pollution, in addition to water pollution. In those days, you could stand on Fifth Avenue in New York and literally suffocate from the quality of the air. That has been now largely eliminated. It's been improved beyond measure. And it was the result of factories spewing fumes, but it was mostly part of the cars spewing untreated exhaust. The environmental engineering is, in those days, was concerned about global warming. And we spoke about it. It was not...
George, at that time, how acute was the problem?
We thought we were on the, if we didn't sort things out, we would be on the way to some major calamity. And I think that now has become common knowledge. In those days, people didn't believe us, didn't take us seriously when we spoke about this. And in fact, there were more immediate concerns. The fact that you couldn't stand on a street and breathe properly was more of a concern than a long-term problem such as global warming. The fact that the water came from the water taps in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, looking yellow, a very distasteful yellow. That was a more immediate problem. The fact that the river, such as the Monongahela, a friend of mine that goes by Pittsburgh, a friend of mine took a swim there when he arrived to Pittsburgh to study at Carnegie Mellon University, and had to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. Yes. So the fact that most solid waste was being buried in open pits and burned in open pits, buried in pits and burned in open pits, I should say. There was far more immediate problems. You know, for example, just to give you an environmental problem that was prevalent at the time, people didn't know what to do with their old cars. They just basically left them parked on the street. On any one day in New York City, you would find 25,000 cars abandoned. They became rat-infested, place for vermin, and they became a danger to children and to all sorts of things. That was a problem, in fact, that I had written, that I had to write a paper on when I did my job, which was at the Eno Foundation. I worked, when I left Carnegie Mellon with a Master's of Environmental Engineering, I went to work at Carnegie Mellon, which was, I left Carnegie Mellon to work at the Eno Foundation. And the Eno Foundation was concerned with how you move people around city, traffic, and logistics. And that was founded by William Phelps Eno in something in 1860, 1870, whatever, 1880, something in late 80s in the United States, as a result of his of the problems of traffic in New York City. One of which, believe it or not, was an environmental problem. Horses which drew carriages in the streets of New York, I can't remember the figure exactly, but they threw out something on the order of 80,000 tons of manure a day. Can you imagine living in a city in which horses throw? So when the car came, it was seen as a great escape. Finally, we have a solution for this horrible problem.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. So I grew up in Lebanon, and I would come from the mountains down to Beirut. And since I was a little kid, I was hurt by the sight of someone beginning to dig up to build a building. I liked the nature, and I didn't like what humans would do to it, even though sometimes they did some really nice things to it. But I liked it enough to say, I resent the fact that someone has just turned the bulldozers into dig a site for a new building. And I really was not really an engineer. Engineers like to build. I wanted to fix things.
To fix it.
To repair things.
So I'm very grateful that you accepted to be our guest, and I'm delighted. God bless you, my dear.